Have you ever played a game where the story was incredible, but something just didn't click? Or maybe the plot was simple, but the way it was told through gameplay, characters, visuals, had you hooked start to finish. A game's narrative isn't just about its story, it's about how it's told. And today, we're diving deep into the difference between story and storytelling, and why both are absolutely crucial in creating a narrative in video games. At its core, the story is the framework of the narrative. It's the what happens, the plot, the world, the characters, the events that drive everything. But then there's storytelling, and that's the how. How the game presents that story, how it's paced, and how it makes you feel through music, gameplay, dialogue, and visuals. Think about games like The Last of Us, Red Dead Redemption 2, or God of War. These games have powerful stories, but it's their incredible storytelling that elevates them to legendary status. And that's where a lot of games, whether they're big budget or indie, can fall short if they don't strike the right balance. Today, we're going to talk about why both story and storytelling matter in creating a memorable experience and how they work together, and how mastering both can make the difference between a game that's good and a game that's great. All right, let's break it down. When we talk about story, what exactly are we referring to? Well, the story is essentially the core structure of a narrative. Think of it like a skeleton, the foundation on which everything is built. Without it, nothing else can exist. The story is made up of a few key elements that work together to drive the narrative forward. Let's break these down. First up, we have plot. This is the sequence of events that happen in the story. It's the what of the narrative, what happens, when, and how. A well-constructed plot is what keeps the audience engaged and invested. In games, the plot usually involves some kind of journey or mission that the player embarks on. Think of The Witcher 3. Geralt's quest to find his adopted daughter Ciri is a clear plot driving the action forward. Next, we have characters. These are the people or creatures involved in the story, and their development is key to making the plot resonate with the player. Characters are what make the story feel real and personal. Whether it's a hero like Geralt, a tragic figure like Joel from The Last of Us, or a team of misfit outlaws in Red Dead Redemption 2, characters give the story meaning. Their growth and decisions shape the plot, and players often feel like they're part of that evolution. Then we have the setting. Where and when does the story take place? The setting gives context to everything happening and can help establish tone and atmosphere. Is it high fantasy, like Elden Ring, a post-apocalyptic wasteland like Horizon Zero Dawn, or something completely different like the futuristic cities of Cyberpunk 2077? The setting can transport players into a completely different world, giving the plot its own unique flavor. Finally, there's the conflict, the central issue or problem that needs to be solved. The conflict is a driving force of the story. Without it, there's no tension, no stakes, no reason to care. Think about God of War, Kratos' conflict with the gods, or Skyrim, where the fate of the world rests on the Dragonborn's shoulders. The conflict is what creates tension and makes the story engaging. It gives characters a purpose, and it gives players something to strive for. To bring all this together, let's look at a well-known story, The Hobbit. In The Hobbit, the plot follows Bilbo Baggins, a humble hobbit who is swept into an epic quest with a group of dwarves to reclaim their homeland from the dragon Smaug. The characters include Bilbo, the brave yet reluctant hero, Thorin Oakenshield, the proud dwarf leader, Gandalf, the wise wizard, and the various dwarves who each bring their unique personalities to the journey. The setting is the fantastical land of Middle-earth, full of mystical creatures, dangerous landscapes, and ancient ruins. And the conflict is Bilbo's personal growth as he faces numerous challenges, including confronting Smaug and finding his courage to aid his companions while navigating the growing tension between the dwarves and the elves. See how all these elements come together in The Hobbit? The story provides the skeleton, the plot, the characters, setting, and the conflict. It gives us everything we need to understand the journey and why we care about Bilbo's quest. Now that we've covered story, let's talk about storytelling. While the story is the skeleton of the narrative, storytelling is the flesh. It's how the story is conveyed and experienced by the audience. It's the style, the pacing, the techniques, and the medium that brings that story to life. Storytelling is what makes the story memorable, impactful, immersive. It's the way we experience the narrative, and in video games, it plays a huge role in how we connect with the plot, the characters, and the world. So let's break down a few key techniques in storytelling that shape the experience in video games. First, we have narrative structure. This is how the story is organized and delivered. In games, you might see a linear narrative where events unfold in a straightforward chronological order, but then you also have non-linear structures. Stories that jump around, use flashbacks, let players experience events out of order. In God of War, the story unfolds in a clear linear fashion as Kratos and Atreus journey through the Nine Realms. But in The Witcher 3, the non-linear structure allows players to shape the direction of Geralt's journey with side quests and major story arcs weaving in and out of the main plot. These choices in structure influence how we experience the narrative and can affect pacing and engagement. Next, we have tone and style. This refers to the emotional atmosphere of the story, the voice of the narrative, and the overall vibe of the experience. Is the story lighthearted and humorous, dark and gritty, epic and adventurous? Take The Last of Us, for example. The tone is somber, tense, emotional, perfectly capturing the struggle of survival in a post-apocalyptic world. On the flip side, Persona 5, filled with a playful, energetic tone as you balance your school life while fighting supernatural enemies. The tone shapes how we feel during the journey, influencing our connection to the characters and the world. And then there is pacing, the rhythm at which the story is revealed. Pacing can make or break the experience. If the story moves too quickly, it might feel rushed. Too slowly, and it might drag. In Uncharted 4, the pacing is fast and intense with high-stake action scenes interspersed with moments of quiet reflection. But in Red Dead Redemption 2, the pacing is slower and more deliberate, allowing the player to fully immerse in the world, learn about the characters, and experience the gravity of the story at a more measured pace. Both are effective, but the pacing is tailored to the type of experience the game is trying to deliver. Let's not forget the visual and audio choices. How the medium itself contributes to the storytelling is huge. Camera angle, lighting, music, sound design can add layers of meaning to a scene, highlighting emotion, building tension, or signaling important narrative moments.
It's your fault! They're dead because of you!
What? He's right. I killed him with my own hands.
They were on your side! I'm on your side! And you turned them all to ashes!
In BioShock Infinite, the music and visual design of Columbia help reinforce the game's themes of alternate realities and power.
Will the circle be unbroken by and by.
In Journey, the minimalistic music and beautiful, vast landscapes convey a deep sense of isolation and discovery. Every visual and audio choice is a piece of the puzzle that enhances the narrative experience. The story can evoke different emotions and experiences depending on how it's presented. And in video games, these storytelling techniques play an even bigger role because we're interacting with the narrative. The way a game structures its story, the tone it adopts, the pacing, and the visual and audio design all combine to make us feel a certain way and keep us invested in the world, and that's where the magic happens. So now we know what story and storytelling are, but why are they both so crucial? Well, it's because both work together to create a complete and immersive narrative experience. If one of these elements is lacking, it can really hurt the overall impact. Let's start with the foundation. Without a strong story, no amount of fancy storytelling techniques can save it. A weak plot or unrelatable characters will fall flat no matter how beautiful the story is told. Take The Room. A famously bad movie, the story itself is a mess, awkward dialogue, confusing motivation, and no real depth, yet the way it's told, especially through Tommy Wiseau's bizarre performance and the film's strange pacing, has made it a cult classic. But despite its quirky storytelling, the weak plot doesn't give the audience much to latch onto, and it's hard to connect with the characters. Even though the storytelling has a unique charm, the lack of a strong, coherent story limits its emotional impact. This is why in games, having a solid foundation, a story that's compelling and has depth, is essential before any storytelling flourishes can happen. On the flip side, even the most compelling story can be diminished by poor storytelling choices. Bad pacing, unconvincing voice acting, weak world building, all these factors can hurt the experience. Honkai Star Rail's 3.0 patch brought us to a new world with an amazing backstory, filled with mystery, adventure, growth, but it drops the ball in its delivery of its plot points, character motivations, and important dialogue scenes by filling the time with static character animation, dialogue over black screens, and overly long speeches over static PNG images. Sure, the world was stunning and the action was epic, but the pacing issues and over-reliance on static images made it harder to connect emotionally with the characters. The story itself was fantastic, but the way it was told didn't always do it justice. But when both story and storytelling align perfectly, that's when the magic happens.
I'm sorry I couldn't protect you.
The synergy of a well-crafted world combined with masterful storytelling techniques creates an unforgettable experience. The Last of Us, for example. The story is incredibly strong. It's a character-driven narrative about survival, loss, and love in a post-apocalyptic world. But what truly makes the experience stand out is how the story is told. The pacing is deliberate, giving moments of quiet, emotional reflection between intense action sequences. The characters are fleshed out with depth and voice acting, especially Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson's performance as Joel and Ellie adds so much emotional weight to the story.
Guess we're both disappointed with each other then.
What do you want from me?
Admit that you wanted to get rid of me the whole time.
Tommy knows this area.
Oh, fuck that.
Well, I'm sorry. I trust him better than I trust myself.
Stop with the bullshit. What are you so afraid of? That I'm gonna end up like Sam? I can't get infected. I can take care of myself.
How many close calls have we had?
Well, we seem to be doing all right so far.
And now you'll be doing even better with Tommy.
When the story and the storytelling align like this, you're not just following a plot, you're living it. The pacing, the dialogue, the visuals, the music, everything works together to make the player feel deeply connected to the characters and their journey. That's when storytelling becomes something much more than just a means of conveying information. It becomes an immersive experience that lingers with the players long after the game ends. Both story and storytelling are critical, but when they work together, they elevate the entire experience. A great story can fall flat without the right storytelling, and beautiful storytelling can only go so far if the story itself doesn't engage or resonate with the audience. But when they come together, that's when you create a narrative that stays with players long after they put down the controller. Alright, so we've talked about what makes a great story and how storytelling plays a huge role in bringing it to life. But here's the kicker. The most memorable narratives are the ones that balance both. A strong plot with engaging storytelling techniques that make the audience feel everything. It's about making sure both pieces complement each other seamlessly. A great narrative doesn't just have the plot that's easy to follow. The plot needs to be compelling, emotionally charged, and resonate with the audience. But equally important is how the plot is delivered. A story with an incredible concept can still fall flat if it's not told in a way that hooks the audience. Pacing, emotional beats, and the way the world and the characters are brought to life can all make a difference. So how do you achieve that balance? Well, there are a few key elements that every great narrative relies on. First up, you need strong characters with clear arcs. Characters are the heart of any great story, and their development should mirror the emotional journey of the plot. Think about the games like The Last of Us, where Joel and Ellie's arc aren't just plot devices. Their growth, their struggles, and their relationship are what drive the emotional core of the story. Without those compelling character moments, the narrative would feel hollow. Next, pacing and structure. A great story knows when to slow down for these emotional moments and when to pick up the pace for the action. It's about how to use your story beats from the highs to the lows to keep the audience on their toes. Games like God of War do this incredibly well, balancing intimate moments of father-son bonding with high stakes, action-packed sequences, making each emotional beat land with more weight. Immersive world building is another key. The world in which the story takes place can amplify the narrative itself. A beautifully crafted world like in Horizon Zero Dawn makes you feel like you're living in that universe, which deepens your emotional connection to the story. Every corner you explore, every hidden piece of lore you uncover, makes the story feel more real and more impactful. One of the unique things about games is that they can use interactive elements to enhance the story. The Witcher 3 allows player choices to impact the narrative, creating a deeper sense of personal involvement. By allowing players to shape the story through their decisions, the game not only tells a great narrative, but makes the player feel like they're a part of it. So it all comes down to balance. A great story provides the emotional core and the plot structure, while great storytelling brings that plot to life through pacing, character arcs, world building, and the medium itself. When done right, the balance creates a narrative that sticks with you long after the credits roll. Alright, let's bring all this together. Story and storytelling are like two halves of the same whole. Nothing can stand alone if we want to create a truly memorable narrative. A great plot is nothing without the right way of telling it, and fantastic storytelling can't save a weak story. When you get the balance right, that's when you get something special. It's those moments, the ones that leave you thinking, feeling, or even questioning the world, that make a great narrative unforgettable. Which story and storytelling combination have stuck with you? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And hey, don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth narratives and whatever. I'm gonna make more videos. My name's Suga, and I will see you in the next one. See ya.